Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening, everyone. First tonight, AFL boss Gillon McLachlan has made one of his last pitches for the Macquarie Point Stadium, saying it has to happen if Tasmania wants a spot in the competition. The league also announcing a new multi-million-dollar package for game development and local footy, but his pledge has failed to sway those opposed.
One final push. Gillon McLachlan's visit to Launceston and Hobart drawing a crowd. Community leaders, current and former politicians, even footy legends turning out.
We've seen what the Jack Jumpers have been able to do in a couple of years on a smaller scale, and I think the same would happen with an AFL team.
The AFL CEO and Premier headlining a business lunch. Jeremy Rockcliffe staking his political life on the planned $750 million stadium.
They might have sent me back to the farm and the paddocks in 2025, but it was the right call to make.
Gillon McLachlan even more direct.
Without the stadium, there is no team. The Commission and the AFL clubs have made that clear.
Saying Tasmania isn't being asked any less.
They need a new stadium in the Gold Coast, new stadium for GWS when those licences was issued.
He also came bearing gifts, unveiling a 10-year funding package. On top of $210 million the club would receive in distribution payments, $25 million will be committed to facilities. $33 million will be invested in talent identification, with academies to be created in the north, northwest and south, while $100 million is earmarked for game development.
Feels we're closer than ever, and I just want to remind Tasmanians what the prize looks like, both in terms of the emotional side but the economic side.
The carrot, however, not swaying opponents. Labor says most of the funding isn't unique.
This is how the AFL system operates. Clubs get dividends back from the AFL to operate.
Crossbenchers accusing the league of holding the bid to ransom.
It shouldn't come with strings attached. We're a heartland AFL state.
Where this idea came from and why it's the essential condition now, it beggars belief.
McLachlan's tour of Tasmania is likely his last visit here before the federal government decides whether to back the stadium or not. The issue has polarised Tasmanians, united political opponents and splintered political allies, but he insists it will be embraced once built.
I talked in some detail to Adelaide Oval today. It's universal pride after universal opposition.
The man who could make or break it all playing a straight bat.
We're considering it as part of an urban redevelopment and urban policy to revitalise the city of Hobart.
John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
Meanwhile, police are continuing to investigate an assault which took place inside Woolworths at Moona last night. A 30-year-old man received head injuries believed to be non-life-threatening and was transported to the Royal Hobart Hospital where he remains. A second male fled the scene before police arrived.
We believe the males are known to each other, that this wasn't a random assault or attack in the middle of a supermarket. We understand that it would have caused distress to not only the staff but members of the public as well.
Police are still looking for the offender and are appealing for anyone with information to contact Crime Stoppers. Allied health professionals have called off planned industrial action following a new wage offer from the state government.
It was really disappointing to even have to talk about taking industrial action. So we are really pleased that the government has listened to us.
We're looking for an agreement that works for government, for taxpayers.
It's understood the new deal will be voted on by HACSU members next week. Tasmania has recorded its first measles case in 4 years. A person in their late 20s is now in isolation at the LGH after returning from overseas and later testing positive to the highly infectious but rare illness. Contact tracing for those who may have been exposed to the virus is underway. The state government lagged behind on rolling out vaccines to pharmacies, meaning many kids began school unvaccinated, a public hearing has been told. In the Pharmacy Society of Australia's Tasmanian branch submission, the group says some government decisions took it by surprise, forcing it to scramble to inform its members. The inquiry is looking to the government's COVID health advice, vaccination rollout return to school and the state border reopening. The state opposition is calling for answers on the progress of the Hobart City deal. Signed on this day in 2019, it provided hundreds of millions of dollars for projects over 10 years, such as the underground bus mall in the CBD and the Northern Suburbs Light Rail Plan. Labor's Dean Winter, who signed the deal as Kingborough Mayor, wants to know where the plan is at.
I'm more disappointed with how this has gone, because this was an exciting opportunity for Tasmania and for Hobart, and it just simply hasn't happened.
Labor have got nothing to offer. It's interesting that Mr Winter, who was actually a signatory and agreed to the Hobart City deal, now opposes it.
The Deputy Premier says City deal initiatives such as the Derwent River Ferries and Bridgewater Bridge replacement have begun, while other projects are on track. New tourism data has revealed visitors to Tasmania have spent record amounts while touring our state. The traveller cash splash is the highest ever and outstripped the industry's original target by almost $1 billion.
Checking in to a record COVID recovery. Hotel owner Kate is cashing in on a Tasmanian tourism boom.
There are actually more events on now, so we're consistently fully booked at the moment.
She says her guests are keen to get off the beaten track and experience the best the state has to offer.
I think they just see Tasmania as a place they're curious about and they haven't been, and they just wonder what this island is off the bottom end of Australia.
And the figures back her up. Despite fewer tourists arriving on our shores, New Tasmanian Visitors Survey data shows a massive $3.49 billion tourism spend last year, close to $1 billion over the target.
But the fact that they're spending so much more than they've ever done before is fabulous, so we welcome them all.
Visit Northern Tasmania is thrilled with the new numbers, saying travellers still nervous about global journeys are coming to the island in droves instead.
Whether that's dining in our restaurants or enjoying some of our experiences, the data is showing that people are dispersing into the regions quite nicely.
But the group says more data is needed to determine the actual number of visitors and where they went on their trips.
Whatever we do it really, really well. And clearly, the world and the rest of Australia want a part of that.
Some are hoping the record result will lead more Tasmanians to pursue a career in tourism.
With these sorts of numbers and these sorts of spends, we know that operators and accommodation providers and others will be employing more people to meet that demand.
Annie Green, 7 Tasmania News.
3 Baker's Delight stores have shut up shop in the Greater Hobart area. The Lindisfarne, Eastlands and Kingston bakeries, all owned by the same franchisee, have been put into voluntary liquidation. It's understood the immediate closure has impacted up to 80 staff members who were made aware of the decision yesterday. A high-tech asphalt plant is months away from production, with more than 350 tonnes of specialist equipment now assembled at Mowbray. The $10 million facility is replacing an existing plant which has reached the end of its service life but has improved green credentials.
We'll be using, as the Minister said, crumbed rubber, so recycled rubber, glass, toner, old cartridges from your printers and old roads. We're going to turn old roads into new roads.
The new plant will be capable of using up to 40% recycled materials to produce new asphalt. A surprising discovery of colonial era artefacts has left archaeologists gobsmacked. 1,800 items have been recovered under the Anglesea Barracks officers' mess. A range of historically significant pieces were found, including more than 60 individual leather shoes, remnants of clothing, as well as buttons made from bone.
The find was quite unusual in the sort of the quantity of textiles and boots, and they represented really early colonial garments for both, the military, convicts, as well as possibly free settlers.
The way organic materials break down in environments means we don't find this sort of stuff very often. Things like leather and material break down, so it's unusual to find this volume of well-preserved artefacts of this type.
Conservation work will now begin on the 200-year-old artefacts, which will be stored at the Anglesea Barracks Museum. The barracks were constructed in 1827. A piece of North Hobart has turned into the city's latest piece of green space. A new park has opened on the corner of Swan Street on land owned by the Uniting Church. Featuring modern seating and a children's maze, the City of Hobart hopes it will also spur business and community activity in the area.
But it also just looks much cleaner and fresher, better designed, so I think it'll be a source of pride for the local community and also the business community.
Many conversations about redeveloping and worked closely with the community to come up with something that works well for the local community, the church community, and a brilliant entrance into the North Hobart precinct.
The federal government also playing a role in construction, committing more than $500,000 towards it.
Ulverston's Alex Pearce has been named Fremantle captain. Pearce spent most of last season filling in for former skipper Nat Fyfe. He's now been promoted to the role permanently in his 10th season at the club. Mitch Marsh heard the news of his call-up to the one-day side while in Hobart. He was keeping an eye on Western Australia's Sheffield Shield clash before he joins his teammates in the Marsh One-Day Cup against Tasmania on Sunday, his first game in 3 months after ankle surgery.
Feeling great. Yeah, my rehab's all gone to plan. We obviously know that we're already in the final, but it's another opportunity for us to represent Western Australia and hopefully win another game.
And he would have liked what he saw. Western Australia is storming towards a huge win over the Tigers after Cameron Bancroft slammed an unbeaten 176. Bo Webster and Tim Payne combined to remove Teague Wiley on 80 before Jared Freeman brought Hilton Cartwright unstuck on 16.
There's Cartwright in the air, well caught. Nice catch.
WA declared at 3 for 372, setting the Tigers a 504-run target. And it's hard to see them getting there. Tasmania is 7 for 88, heading into tomorrow's final day of play. The Tassie Tridents' finals hopes have now vanished in the Bowls Premier League. The Tasmanians have won just 4 of their 15 games in a disappointing tournament, which wraps up tomorrow. And Tasmanian motorsport legend John Bowe believes the time is right to retire from full-time racing. Fittingly, his farewell season in the Touring Car Masters begins at his home track, Symmons Plains, from tomorrow. With 6 Touring Car Masters titles and an unbeaten 104 race wins, John Bowe's record is as rare as his major sponsor. And tomorrow his final season begins where it all began.
I have been going to Symmons Plains, honestly, for 50 years. So I spent my childhood collecting cordial bottles and cashing them in and at Symmons Plains. So I love the place.
The 68-year-old's last ride is a 1977 Holden Tirana, the livery designed by his partner Leslie. But the thought of life after racing still hasn't sunk in.
I don't know how I'll react, at the end of the year, but at the moment I think there's too much attention on me, so it's more of a nuisance than anything.
Luckily for Bowe, there are plenty of other drivers craving that attention.
When you put your right foot down, it puts a smile on your face.
Hobart's Josh Webster is graduating from Hyundais to the Trans Ams and isn't shy of the extra dose of speed.
When you've got 5 times the grunt, it makes you pretty excited each time you strap the helmet on.
And you can hear why. Launceston's Lockie Dalton felt the full force of the Trans Ams in his debut last season.
Big wake-up call. Really hard racing. Yeah, they're not afraid to move you out the way or give you a nudge.
3 days of flat-out action begins tomorrow at Race Tasmania, including the open-wheeler S5000s.
On these, you're literally laying down, probably 50 mil off the ground kind of thing, so that's quite unique when you sort of feel like you're laying in a bathtub.
And the advice from the master for these up-and-comers?
To stay there. No one's going to discover you if you're not there, so you just got to stay at it.
From the man who's stuck around motorsport longer than most.
Good evening. Hobart, our top today with 27 degrees. Launceston hit 25, Devonport 24 and Burnie 23. And today was voted a better than average day for most of Tasmania. The east a bit cooler though. Strawn, Grove and King Island all 26. Flinders Island, Friendly Beaches and Bushy Park 25. Low Head and St Helens 21. A few areas of low clouds spotted over northern Tasmania as high clouds streamed above. On the bigger picture, an extensive cloud band with embedded thunderstorms covers most of the tropical north, with another over Western Australia. The rest of the nation mostly cloud-free apart from northeast New South Wales. Tomorrow, as the high moves to the east, a warm northerly airstream will push over us. Hooray! The monsoon trough is there over the tropics still, and a trough lies over the west. North to northeasterly winds, as promised, at 10 to 20 knots over northern waters, but to 30 knots for the rest of the coastline. Bit blowy. Light winds over the southwest lakes, though. A strong wind warning has been issued from St Helens Point to Southeast Cape and from Low Rocky Point to Stanley. So for tomorrow, mostly sunny and 31 in Hobart, 33 for Huonville, Campania 32 degrees. Launceston partly cloudy, 29 the top, 25 for Devonport, Georgetown partly cloudy and 27 tomorrow. 22 the high for Burnie, Strawn mostly sunny, 31 degrees and 24 the top for Wynyard. St Helens tomorrow a high of 25, partly cloudy there, Swansea the same but 28 the high and 27 the maximum for Port Arthur. UV at a very high, 9. On Saturday a few showers extending across the state from the west, morning showers on Sunday for the west and south, otherwise fine, and on Monday mostly fine but partly cloudy. Sunny and 30 in Perth, the big 4-0 for Adelaide tomorrow, that'll be a stinker. Sunny and warm in Melbourne, partly cloudy in Sydney, a few showers and 27 for Brisbane. And here are the current conditions across the state, mostly fine. And Kim, lucky I got through tonight. My hay fever's playing out something shocking. Haven't got a spare hanky, have you?
Gross. Given you're allergic to horses, I reckon stay away from the racetrack, Murph. That is all your news for now. Good night.